In the vast heart of the Serengeti, where the laws of nature reign supreme, we often forget that deep down, the needs of the heart are the same for every creature. This is the story of David, a quiet man who walked the thin line between the human world and the wild. And this is the story of Leo, the king of the pride. For years, they shared a deep, silent bond, a friendship forged not by domestication, but by desperate kindness and profound respect. We are not speaking of a pet. We are speaking of an apex predator who had memorized the face of a savior. David's life was a testament to coexistence. But when the wardens suddenly passed away, alone in the stillness of the bush, the wild did not forget. Today, we take you to a moment of rare occurrence, one that defies all belief. It happened during David's funeral procession on a narrow, dusty track. Something magnificent, yet broken, emerged from the shadows to offer a final farewell. A salute that was not a roaring threat, but a deep bow and eternal reverence. David was a man of routine and kindness. He didn't just see wild animals as subjects to protect. He saw them as neighbors. 3 years earlier, he had found Leo, then a young male, clinging to life. Leo had lost a brutal territorial fight. He was severely injured, weak, and abandoned by his pride. In the wild, this was a death sentence. Most rangers would have followed protocol, perhaps euthanizing the animal to prevent prolonged suffering, but David saw a fighter in Leo's eyes. He made a daring decision. He would intervene by not intervening. David camped hundreds of yards away, keeping a respectful distance. Every day, without fail, he left fresh water and safe meat in the clearing. He never tried to pet Leo, never tried to tame him. He simply provided the opportunity for the wild to heal itself. This was not training, it was simple faith in life. The breakthrough moment, the one that cemented their relationship, involved a mortal danger. One afternoon, as David was delivering the meat near where Leo lay, a large black mamba snake began to slither towards the injured, unresponsive lion. Leo couldn't even lift his head. David, armed with only a long stick and fierce determination, acted fast. He didn't kill the snake. He skillfully distracted it and drove it away, saving Leo's life without ever laying a hand on the lion. It was a completely selfless act of protection. Leo survived. He regained his strength. His mane grew magnificent, and he reclaimed his destiny to become a powerful male, the undisputed leader of his territory. Though Leo returned to the true wild, David knew the debt of kindness was noted. Occasionally, at sunrise, David would catch those famous amber eyes watching him from the acacia trees near his cabin, a silent, potent acknowledgement of the man who chose compassion over caution. This unspoken understanding, this spiritual contract, was the core of David's existence. David was the heart of the reserve, a man of routine and quiet strength. He had survived encounters with poachers, aggressive buffalo, and harsh illnesses. But nature's greatest irony is often its most silent blow. David did not fall in a fight. He was subdued by an unexpected, cruel frailty of his own body. He died while on solo patrol, deep in the bush. It was not violence, but the betrayal of his own body. He suffered a massive stroke. The silent attack occurred miles from assistance. When his colleagues found him after a multi-day search, he was resting peacefully in the shade of his favorite baobab tree. In his hand, still gripped firmly, was his worn field journal and binoculars. David had been watching the natural world until his very last breath. He had passed away exactly where he belonged, merged into the wilderness he had sworn to protect. News of his death rippled through the small community like a shockwave. David was not just a ranger, he was a living legend. His funeral was a quiet, solemn ritual, a procession of colleagues, friends, and locals, all grieving the loss of a man who embodied the spirit of the savannah. The simple wooden coffin was carried by his co-workers along a dusty track, heading toward the ancient grove chosen as his final resting place. The route led straight through the edge of Leo's territory, a path David walked every day. The air was heavy, thick with silent tears and the rhythmic, slow shuffling of boots on the dry earth. They were prepared for the heat, the dust, and the pain of loss. But they were not prepared for the interruption that was coming. They were not prepared for the king to show up and demand his own moment of goodbye. The procession moved slowly, the weight of the coffin matched only by the weight of their sorrow. They rounded a bend on the narrow track where the bush was at its densest. It was then that everything stopped. Without warning, without sound, a huge, majestic figure burst from the thicket. Leo, the massive lion, stood squarely in the middle of the road, head lowered, completely blocking their path. His presence was not merely strong. It was a crushing pressure. He was the embodiment of the wild, untamed danger. The pallbearers froze instantly. Fear, primal and absolute, seized the entire group. This was not a wildlife sighting. This was a confrontation. A few brave men whispered about how to drive him off, but the older members signaled for silence. Leo was not growling. He was not aggressive. His amber eyes, usually burning with predatory intent, were fixed only on the wooden coffin. There was a terrible, beautiful tension in the air. For 2 agonizingly long minutes, man and beast faced each other in absolute silence, locked in a contest of wills. Then, the true purpose of the magnificent creature became chillingly clear. Leo was not there to hunt. He was there to mourn. He took one slow, deliberate step toward the coffin. The group held a breath, and then the king of the wild did the unthinkable. In an act of profound solemnity that broke the hearts of everyone present, Leo began to lower his massive body. Slowly, intentionally, his powerful front legs buckled, bringing him to a kneeling position. Then his hind legs followed suit, collapsing his entire enormous frame onto the dusty road. His head bowed in an act of absolute humility and reverence. This was not a stalking posture. This was a purposeful, almost human gesture of supreme respect to the man to whom he owed everything. Leo held the kneeling position, his head close to the ground, for what felt like an eternity. The only sound that echoed in the harsh African heat was a heartbreaking, mournful noise that erupted from his vast chest, a deep, sorrowful moan. It was the sound of genuine lament, not the roar of a wild beast, but the sorrow of a faithful friend who understood the loss perfectly. He was giving his final, eloquent goodbye. When Leo finally rose, he did so slowly, with the same dignity and composure with which he had appeared. He simply turned, quietly stepped to the side of the road, and melted back into the shadows of the acacia bush, leaving the path clear. The entire procession, eyes streaming with emotion, understood. They had been granted permission to proceed. But the story of loyalty does not end there. In the weeks that followed, David's rangers and family often found the large paw prints of the lion impressed on the newly turned earth of the gravesite. On multiple occasions, Leo was spotted returning. The proud king of the savannah would not kneel again, but he would lie silently next to David's resting place, his eyes focused on the distant horizon, as if he was still keeping his promise of protection, standing guard for his great friend. The moment confirmed that this bond was not just reverence, but eternal friendship. The story of David and Leo is a powerful reminder. It proves that the deepest forms of loyalty and respect transcend all barriers of language and biology. David's life was a testament to the truth that when you give pure compassion, the wildest of hearts will recognize and reciprocate. The connection they shared was real, and the grief Leo displayed was as vivid and intense. It shows us that animals are not just governed by instinct. They possess an emotional and moral landscape that we are only beginning to discover. This is a powerful reason to believe. Believe in the universal language of kindness. Believe in the incredible capacity for connection that exists all around us, often hidden in the most unexpected places. If a man and a magnificent wild lion can forge an unbreakable bond, what connections are we missing in our own lives? We would love to hear your thoughts on this incredible story. Have you ever experienced an unexpected connection with an animal? Share your story in the comments below. And if this story brought a moment of hope to your day, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more true, inspiring stories of connection, kindness, and the wild heart of the world.